Hey, friend. Welcome back. And in this episode of Side Hustle Growth Podcast, we're talking all things multipreneur, multi-passionate, multi-hyphenate. And if you want to be successful at it, then don't go anywhere because I'm sharing from my experience of being a successful multipreneur and how I was actually able to add the word successful to that because, it takes some trial and error in this world of entrepreneurship before you actually really become successful. So I'm going to break it all down for you and simplify it, hopefully, for you so that you can now have your own multiple streams of income doing it all the right way. Some entrepreneurs do focus on one thing, but have found various ways to have other streams of income. So it could be a course or a digital product, or they have events or retreats, etc. And they are all earning money for them, although they might be focusing on the one thing. They have their niche and they have brilliantly found a way to capitalize on it. Then there are the others like me who just want to be tapping into their creativity to become multipreneurs. I have to say, for me, it happened all very organically. And I have really learned to not limit myself, if you will, because who said I got to limit myself? I got one life to live and I'm going to live it, okay? I have been a beauty consultant. I am a Reiki master. I am a culinary guide. And of course, I have to mention the podcast, although, because it is a stream of income, although that is under the coaching umbrella, if you will. So coaching is my main focus, and I have these other streams. So let's get into it. Enough yammering, CJ. You know you got to let me know how you're doing. Comment below or DM me. Let's kick things off by exploring what it truly means to be multi-hyphenate, multi-passionate, being a multipreneur, etc., etc., etc. Being multi-passionate is about embracing those diverse talents and finding ways to weave them into your entrepreneurial journey. Because of this, you may want to refer to yourself as multi-hyphenate or multipreneur to sound all fancy and ooh la la, but are you really? So let's look into the definition. All right, I asked Uncle Google. Multipreneurship is a general term used to describe individuals who pursue multiple upwardly entrepreneurial and or lifestyle business ownership initiatives. Being a multipreneur isn't about doing multiple things at once, aka being multi-passionate. It's about profiting from doing multiple things at once. So keeping it bluntly, just because you're working on various hobbies, multi-passionate, hoping that one of them will stick, doesn't quite fit the definition of being a multipreneur until you're generating income. So if you identify as multi-passionate or multipreneur, no need to flex if you're just scattered or unfocused. CJ's gonna keep it real for you. Someone had to say it. Me, I am someone. Because I do hear it all the time. I'm a multipreneur, but are you earning any income from those projects? No? Okay, so you're multi-passionate, and that's beautiful. Now, this is also a good time to talk about serial entrepreneurship, which is a practice where individuals start many mobile enterprises. Again, I asked Uncle Google. This is not how CJ talks. And eventually you move on to new ventures when the change occurs, when the need for the change occurs. So basically, serial entrepreneurs are always on to the next thing when one venture has reached its potential, and they're okay with moving on to the next. So a serial entrepreneur has mastered the art of being multi-passionate, but also being very business focused. This brings me to number 2 of talking about being a creative soul like me. And you know that your entrepreneurial path can sometimes feel like a bit of a roller coaster ride of ideas and inspiration. But with the right strategies, keyword, we can channel that creativity into tangible results? Are you using entrepreneurship to express yourself creatively while also earning an income? This would most likely be identifying what idea to pursue and going through the 6 W's. I've covered episodes on that, just really breaking down starting your entrepreneurial journey, starting a side hustle using the 6 W's of what, why, who, when, where, and how. Creative souls, like myself, also struggle with structure, but it is necessary if you're going to turn your passion into profit. The discipline that comes with proper time management, consistency, and focus, that is what will really bring the results. So if you're a creative soul, I get it, but you do need that structure. You do need that strategy. You do need to find a way to really focus if you are going to generate an income, if you're going to profit from your passion, and if you're going to do it consistently. Third tip is to piggyback on the previous one, and that is identifying those shiny objects to help you to really improve your focus. Shiny object syndrome. Good old shiny object syndrome. We've all been there. It's easy to be distracted by new ideas and opportunities, but it is also essential to stay focused on your long-term goals. If you want it to be long-term, whatever long-term looks like for you, that could be a year, it could be 5, it could be 10, whatever long-term looks like for you. Let's explore how we can identify shiny objects and prioritize our projects accordingly. Now, shiny objects, I will say, may seem closer than they really are. Kind of like looking in the mirror. The rear view mirror, they say objects can appear closer than they really are. So to overcome that, it's good to think more long-term than short-term so you can prioritize your goals and get clarity for some focus, some serious focus. Just because you think it's a good idea, again, somebody has to say it, that someone is me. Just because you think it's a good idea does not mean it's the right idea. Heck, all ideas can seem good. When you don't have focus, especially when you don't have clarity, what can you see yourself doing a year from now and it developing into a business where you generate income? How would your life improve? What can potentially become an expensive hobby? Because that can happen because you haven't really defined that structure, created that strategy and that system in order to grow it into a thriving business. So if you're pouring time and money into it without yielding any real results, aka income, it is an expensive hobby, my friend. Now, don't get me wrong. Some expensive hobbies do pay off. Okay? Don't be going on saying CJ said I was supposed to quit what I was doing because I was spending too much time and money on it. That's not what I'm saying. But can you afford the investment of time and money? Some ideas can be shelved, and that is okay. So you really need to be able to assess. You really need to be able to evaluate. Is this a shiny object? Is this what I really want to focus on for the next year, 5 years, however long? Or is this just a really bright idea because I'm a creative soul and I'm all over the place. I'm lacking focus and I'm lacking direction. I'm lacking clarity. Like, oh, I can do this thing for now. But will it really stick? Once you shelved the shiny objects and you have been able to prioritize your goals, now we can get on to the next thing, which is leveraging your power hour. I dedicated an entire episode on leveraging your power hour. So be sure to go back and check that out. It was back in March of 2022. Oh, time flies. Oh my goodness. But check it out because your power hour can be your secret weapon for maximum productivity. I'm talking about this is about using your time wisely, whether it's early morning or late at night, finding your power hour and really kind of harnessing it for focused work can make all the difference in your side hustle success as a multi-passionate, as a multipreneur. Just like the term sounds, your power hour can bring about the best version of you to get focused work done. When you are operating at your peak performance. So my power hour, I'm a morning person. So my power hour really by like 10 a.m., like boom, I can get in, focus. I'm most productive. I'm most excited to work on what I'm working on. I'm focused. I'm in it. So I typically don't meet clients around that time. So I can pour into a particular area of my business for that time. On the other hand, I am completely useless. Like late afternoon, evening time, nighttime, where some folks may describe themselves as night owls. Or as a side hustler, you have no other choice but to become a night owl because you're at work during the day. Some also can get a second wind and can come to life because they just love their businesses so much. It varies. It really, really does vary. But identifying when you can focus on your side hustle and feel productive is really helpful. And it doesn't have to be an hour. It can be 2 or 3 or 5, but just know that I'm going to say, take a break. Yes, you're working on maximum productivity and your focus, but your brain, your heart, your soul your body still needs you to get up and take that break, be it 5 minutes, be it 10 minutes, however long you want the break to be. Okay. You know, I was going to tell you to take a break. CJ's always talking about taking breaks, which brings me to the next point in being and staying in your zone of genius, which was also, I want to cover all these topics. This was also a topic on the podcast, but this was back in like July 2021. It was with one of my former business coaches, Sheila, and she really breaks it all down for you. But essentially, your zone of genius is where your passion meets your proficiency. It's about identifying tasks that light you up and leveraging them to propel your business forward. Your zone of genius is that thing. The reason you're running your business, your side hustle in the first place. So my zone of genius is coaching and supporting side hustle women on getting the clarity that sparks their creativity. There are other important parts of the business where delegation may be necessary. Like, I don't want to do bookkeeping and accounting because it's not in my zone. There are some brilliant accountants, bookkeepers out there. That's why we have those professionals who love numbers. What can you do to stay in your zone? If you're a solopreneur, most of us are, I get the solopreneur life as well, especially when you're starting out. I get it. Leveraging your power hour to get these tasks done is also a good idea. It's not in your zone. You can work on them during a little time when you're most productive so you can complete them with efficiency without feeling like a complete soul-sucking task. Figuring out how you can stay in your zone of genius, that's where it's all about. And that brings me to effective time management. So we're planning ahead, scheduling. For me, having designated days for particular businesses or side hustles, you were dealing with less time. Just 9 to 5 is taking up most of your days, taking up most of your week. So from planning ahead, scheduling designated days and times for each of your ventures, you can create a strategy that will help you to make the most of your precious time. Themed days to work on my different ventures because it helps me to manage my expectations better. That's something I always stress, managing your expectations. So for example, Mondays for me are not client facing. So I can use my power hour to work on my business. And then Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I coach. Thursdays, I will work on my podcast. All Thing Podcast will come out. That's when a new episode is live, and I'll meet with guests for recordings and any kind of editing that needs to be done. All of that will be factored in on Thursdays as well. Fridays, Saturdays, weekends, I can do Reiki or my weekend side hustle as a culinary guide, which is just a fun thing I love doing. It gets me out of the house and meeting people, and I get to talk about food. So as a side hustler, it may be that certain days or certain times in a day that you work on certain projects during the week. Even if it's less time, if you're blocking an hour for a particular task, they can make all of the difference. And you know what helps? This brings me to the next point. Minimizing those distractions, my friend. Put that phone on D&D. Create those boundaries. Have designated quote unquote work hours. This is outside of your 9 to 5. Your 9 to 5, everything's already structured for you. So this is now you working on your side hustle or side hustles and being successful at it. And distractions can really derail even the most well-laid plans. It can. And life be lifing. Things will come up. But fear not. Let's explore some practical tips for minimizing distractions, setting boundaries, creating designated work hours that allow us to stay focused and productive. Creating boundaries can be for your clients, for example. You're not available during certain times or certain times of the day. If they're expecting responses, they're expecting you to complete a project, however things are structured, if you know that you will not be able to get back to them, especially if you're working a 9 to 5, it has to be very clear. I'm not available from this time to this time. So give me 12 hours, 24 hours to be able to respond to your emails, or just to help them with their expectations as well. You need boundaries with your loved ones. If you're doing things from home, what does your physical environment look like? Do you have a space where you can work on your side hustle? You can be focused on your side hustle. Is it at a certain time? You tell people, those you live with, if you live with anyone, just say, hey, like, I'm not available from 7 to 8 p.m. because here's what I'm doing. Those are the boundaries I'm talking about. The people be very clear on them, so it helps you to stay focused. Hopefully they are supportive. Hopefully they're understanding that you are really trying to grow something. You're really trying to focus on something, turning something, generating consistent income, and they can get on board with honoring your boundaries. I love me some D&D. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. It does not ring during the day. It doesn't even ring ever because I turned all my notifications off. I'm one of those people. I don't get notifications. I have to actually go into an app, and then from there, I will dedicate a certain amount of time to go into that app, and then I will see what the notifications are, even for my emails. Nothing pops up on my phone unless it's some kind of calendar, some kind of event. If a client appointment is coming up, those I need reminders for, but everything else, I've turned off my notifications. So it might be something that you want to take into consideration, turning those things off, minimizing those distractions as much as possible. You're dealing with less time to try to maximize on your productivity, on your results in your side hustle. Now, this brings me to the next point, which is working on versus working in your side hustle. And the episode where I talked about this a little bit more was November 2022. Let's address the difference between the two. You're going to go check out that episode, of course. But since you're here, let's continue talking. Let's get into it, break it down a little bit more. There's the strategic planning and the day-to-day operations and how to find the harmony between the two. So working on, you're thinking about what's going on in your business. This is how it helped me to really understand the quote unquote difference between the two. And then that's why I did that episode back in November 2022. And now helping my clients to really understand the difference between the two, because you're saying working on and working in, what does that mean? So working on, you're thinking about what's going on behind the scenes. Your strategy, your planning, your systems, your follow-up, anything that makes the business more efficient. So Mondays when I'm not client facing, I'm not working on any other side hustles, I will deal with my emails or any other admin stuff, any other team stuff that will happen on Mondays. I'm working on my business. In that episode, I use an analogy of rehearsing for a play, promoting it and selling tickets, all the components that will make it successful. Now, working in, you think about what's coming in. So what is actually an income producing activity? The coaching, the speaking engagements, the things that would actually generate income. For the play analogy, that's the actual ticket sales and then performing the play. So think about working on, when you're figuring out your power hour, your zone of genius, you're figuring out when you are most productive, when you're most efficient. You think about working on and working in. You might find that you spend more time working on your business, especially in the beginning, or especially as you're kicking something off. You might need to work on a little bit more, but you need to strike that balance between the two. So you're not always being completely hands-on. You can be in your zone of genius and doing those things that generate the income. You get to work in your business. I touched on this now. I'm almost done. I promise. I touch on this next point a little bit. I mentioned it, but it always has to be its own feature, its own component whenever I do one of these episodes. And that is talking about managing your expectations. This sounds very familiar, right? Because CJ has covered it before. It is vital in this world of entrepreneurship, especially multipreneurship. Setting realistic goals, communicating openly with your clients, navigating the inevitable ups and downs of this journey. So you may think, okay, you have all these things on the go when you're not at your 9 to 5, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this much time, 3 hours this day, 6 hours that day. When the weekend comes around, I'm going to do all day Saturday, or get as much as I can done on Saturday or on Sunday. But be real with it. Manage your expectations. Do you really have 3 hours? Can it only be 1 hour? Is it only going to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Is it Mondays to Fridays? Manage your expectations. Look at your calendar, pull it out, see when when you are not available, when other things in life will be taking up your time and you can't work on your side hustle. And then what time you have left over and what you want to work on. You're figuring out working on, you're figuring out working in, your power hour. Manage your expectations. You may be all gung-ho, you're super excited, you've figured things out, you've created the action plan and the business strategy, the business plan, your business vision and mission, all these things I work on with my clients. And now you're like, okay, I'm good. I'm ready to go. I got all my content ready to go. It's going to be great. And then you put things out and it's crickets, which is to be expected. So be sure you can manage your expectations as much as you are managing your time to be a successful multipreneur. What can you expect from yourself? So you're not spreading yourself too thin. You do not want to spread yourself thin with a 9 to 5 and a side hustle or a 9 to 5, and you're a multipreneur. You've got a couple things, businesses that you're working on, and time is a huge factor. You don't want to spread yourself too thin. So what can you realistically work on, focus on to achieve results, to feel like you're on track, to find a flow, to get some rhythm in order to be able to keep going? And that, of course, is a segue into my next point, which is delegating those tasks, automating your process, my friend. Super, super key. It can help you to scale your business. You always hear about scaling your business. It's not a term I really like, but anyway, scaling your business, because that's when you are able to grow your business. You're generating income. There's room now for you and your business to grow. There's a flow there in order to grow. You free up valuable time for the things that matter most. Let's explore how we can identify those opportunities to delegate and automate so we can focus on what truly lights us up. If you find a certain task is very, very, very repetitive, but very, very necessary, and this is something I learned very early on. I'm using the word very a lot, but I just want to stress it. But if you find you're sending an email to a new client, or you're following up with a client, and then you got to send the proposal, and then you have to get their response, and they say yes, and you got to sign the contract, and you send that over, you send the email, the invoice over. There are platforms, there's software that can help you to really help to automate your process. If you can't afford that, you can still create templates. You can still find ways to create a system within having some kind of project management tool. I like to use Trello. You can get a visual of things, but if something is becoming repetitive, you're working on it during your power hour, it's keeping you out of your zone of genius, and just realize you're saying, why am I doing this again when I can make this into? That's how you create a system and you automate things, and you can find a flow in your business. And that's where those platforms do come in handy. The next thing that can come in handy is recognizing when to ask for help. You can't do it alone, and that's okay. It's a lot. It's a lot to take on to be a successful multipreneur. So knowing when to ask for help is actually a sign of strength. It's not a weakness. Ask for help. This is from someone who is fiercely independent. I have learned it's very, very important to be able to ask for help. Recognize when you need that support, when to turn for that guidance. If you don't have all the answers, you don't know what your next step should be, it's really helpful to have someone to support you through that journey. If it's a coach, your girl CJ is here, of course. Last but not least, self-care. It's funny that I mentioned this as number 12 because we've actually gone through 12 today. It's funny that I mentioned this as number 12 because when I work on the areas, the 12 areas of life with my clients, self-care is area number 1. As side hustlers, it's easy to burn the candle at both ends. You're working 9 to 5, and then you're working 5 to 9 or 5 to midnight, whatever it may look like. So prioritizing your well-being, really becomes essential for long-term success. I will always mention self-care. So you might notice a pattern whenever you check out other episodes because I will mention the self-care, those self-care rituals, nourishing your mind, your body, your spirit, making sure that you can stay connected with your ultimate goal with your business, with your vision, with your mission for your business. You're not running yourself ragged. You're not spreading yourself too thin. Okay, if you can't be 100% yourself in your business, and there are going to be the times when you're not. There are going to be the times when something major is coming up and you're just like, you know what, for the next week, I'm just going to power through. I'm just going to do an extra hour here or there because I know by the next week I'll be done. But you need to make sure, especially when it comes to our mental health or mental well-being, that you're taking care of yourself. Being a successful entrepreneur, there are a lot of factors, a lot of components. Being a successful multipreneur, I hope this helped. I hope this episode helped understanding, how to navigate being a creative soul and finding your power hour and your zone of genius and managing your time the right way, delegating tasks, asking for help, figuring out your self-care. All those will come into play when you can start to generate and have those multiple streams of income, because ultimately you want to work smarter, not harder. There's a lot of hard work, of course, that is factored in the beginning, but ultimately that's where you want to go. That's where being able to create a system will come in very handy, and being able to automate things. You're working smarter, not harder. If you don't need to do something, you're like, why am I doing this again? You can automate it, or you can ask for help. And on asking for help, be sure, if you want to, book that 15-minute vibe check with your girl CJ. You need more tips on being a multi-hyphenate, which is you're a 9-to-5er with a side hustle. If it's one side hustle or 2 or 3, whatever your business looks like. If you're multi-passionate and you want to be able to take one of those passions, turn it into a side hustle, let us have a 15-minute conversation and take things from there. See how things go. I hope you found this episode super, super helpful. I would love to get your feedback on it. Reach out to me. Text me at the number in the description, and let's talk some more. And until the next episode, I am sending you all the good vibes. Bye.